Today on the Rise of the Challenge podcast.
So focused on like what I do like and, the intimacy part of things or whatever. And I was, it was almost like I fell in lust with people versus falling in love with people. And I was very disconnected. It was a lot. These last handful of years have been a lot, just like energetically I have this newfound audience and I'm like, holy Christmas, like I don't know how to handle all of this. And, even social media, yes, for the most part, I'm very authentic, I'm raw, I'm vulnerable, all the things. But there were some posts, like I could go through my social media right now and look at my feed and be like, that really wasn't me.
Welcome to the Rise of the Challenge podcast. Joined today from Love is Blind, entrepreneur, influencer, and podcast host. It's Kelly Chase. How are you doing today, Kelly?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. It's so excited.
We are so excited to have you on the show to talk about your rise to the challenge. What we like to do with all of our guests is go right to the beginning. Talk about where you're from and what did you like doing growing up?
Gosh, yeah. So I grew up, I still live in Atlanta, Georgia. I grew up about an hour east of here in a very small town. So there was literally cows and chickens that were next door neighbors to me for a little while. But let's see. Growing up, it was, again, a very small town. I feel like my neighbors I became friends with and, playing softball, like in the cul-de-sacs and, just riding bikes, that kind of thing. It was very, it's interesting because like now it's such a digital world and we didn't have that back then. So it's definitely a transition culture. But yeah, I was high school, prom queen, homecoming court. I did different like sports, also, beta club, key club, things like that, academic programs and whatnot. I went to UGA. Loved my experience there. I say that I probably got a degree in partying versus an actual degree. We were one of the number one party schools back then. So it was fitting. But I had a great time. Met still my like best friends from college are still my best friends from college. So I've remained those relationships to this day, and it's very bittersweet. Getting to see them, become moms and all of that. It's really neat. But yeah, growing up, anytime anyone, asked me like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I would always say, teacher, baby doctor, and an actress. Those were like the three things I always said. And it's all fun and games until you're 16 and like college is on the line. Yeah. And my mom was a kindergarten teacher for like close to 15 years. And when I proposed that, she was like, Kel, it's so political these days. And it's not as fun as it once was. And, you don't get paid enough, blah, 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 blah. So that was discouraged, but obviously my parents were trying to just guide me in the right direction and have my best interest at heart. And when the whole baby doctor thing, like pediatrician thing came up, they're like, you just went through so many years of school. Are you sure you want to go through like 10 more years of school? I'm like, actually, no, I don't think I do. I don't think I do. I love babies, but I don't think I want to go the medical route. And then the actress thing, it was like, it's so competitive out there. I don't know, unless you like know someone in the industry, I don't know how accessible that avenue is going to be for you. And I was like, okay, well, then I'm going to go to college and I don't know what I'm going to major in. So first year, your freshman year, you really don't have to like figure it out. Like you're just taking the preliminary classes and whatnot. And then the second year, you kind of have to start figuring it out. And my sister, who's a year older, she went into fashion merchandising. And I was like, sure, why not? I'll do that. And yeah, so I graduated from UGA with a fashion merchandising degree. I did one internship. I have never done anything with it. I started my career, my professional life out in like a staffing company. And then I went into like sales, like account executive, account management, that type of thing. And that has pretty much been my title in the corporate America space. I've been in and out of corporate America a couple of times because I did get in 2013, I got health coaching certified, and that has transitioned. I mean, I was health coach for probably 5 or 6 years. And then I started to transition in more of like mindset coaching, some business coaching, relationship coaching, life coaching, quote unquote. Still with a little minor focus in the health coaching realm, but yeah, it's been an interesting journey for me for sure. And then of course we like I resigned from a career in 2017, started this whole like self-love personal development journey. A year later, we filmed Love is Blind, and my world felt like it flipped upside down and did cartwheels and somersaults and all the things. So it's been an interesting handful of years since filming and the airing of Love is Blind. So
To see where you are today, growing up in that small community, do you feel that it helped with your personality and your skill set growing up in that small community where you're knowing each other, everyone's there to help each other, to
yeah.
where you are today and what you kind of do with that self-development, that kind of that mindset coaching that you did go through?
Right. Yes and no. I mean, I think I was just, I don't know if it's, my mom is a very extroverted person. I don't know if it was just like programming in a sense, but I just felt like I was always doing things to be seen and heard. Like I said, I was prom queen, I was on homecoming court. I was in theater in high school too. Like there was always something. And granted, I mean, 2 years ago, I was working with a mindset coach and I was telling her, like, I feel like there's so much resistance. There was like an unworthiness issue going on with me. And she was like, were you very competitive with your sister, like for your parents' attention? And I said, no, I don't feel that way. I said, but what I do feel is that like I, I did things unconsciously to be seen.
Mhm.
Like, oh, people will know me. People will, they'll see me, they'll hear me, they'll know me by doing X, Y, and Z. And although again, it was very unconscious at the time, I can just think back and like now in my adult life, I'm like, wow, I feel like I had picked up a lot of those patterns and I was still doing it, particularly ever since like the show aired. I was very much in the, oh, if I do this, then people will like me. If I do this, then I will be seen. If I do this, then people will know my name. I'll stay relevant. I'll stay popular. Like it's so crazy, like how the mind works and our behaviors that follow. But, I feel like the small town, I want to say it more so keeps me grounded because although, yes, I had a lot of inner dialogue and emotional roller coaster with the show. I still was finding pieces of myself that were very authentic and staying true to myself. And I think that that was the small town influence of just having, wow, like if I feel more like at home
Mhm.
when I'm around my friends, and family, and I'm not just showing up on social media all the time and that kind of thing. So, yeah, I think that that was probably it more. It just felt they helped me, it helped me center myself and stay connected.
Well, we're talking about the patterns. Usually, when people think, oh, prom queen, homecoming court, it's like the popular person or the person that wants to be at that high elite level and be the face of that group. But you kind of did other things that someone typically wouldn't be doing as someone that's prom queen, where you're part of those clubs, you're finding those other skills that or those other activities that you liked, but you're still kind of putting yourself out there and wanting to be seen by all of those different parties, which to me values more that you didn't have that kind of level of, oh, I just want to be popular. You
Right.
wanted to be seen in a way that shows that you were capable of doing anything. And
Yeah.
that I think shows a lot of skills with you sharing all the things that you did as you got older was it was kind of still following that same path was I don't want to be known as just this. I want to be known as I can do a little bit of everything.
Yeah. You know what? That is so beautiful that you just said that because I feel like that's been my uh just inner struggle, I guess, the last few years because, the show rolls out and it's like you're a health coach. Like it titles me like you're a health
Yeah.
coach. I'm like, I am so much more than that. And I'm so much more than a reality TV personnel. Like I'm like I'm so multifaceted. And even, like I'm relaunch I have a podcast. There's over 100 episodes. I'm relaunching it. I took a break because I felt very just out of alignment and out of sorts with it. And I'm relaunching it and I'm like, wow, it's so fun because now I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to be multifaceted. I'm going to talk about all the things. And I love it. Like, yes, maybe it has like an overarching theme to it. But at the end of the day, we're going to talk about love. We're going to talk about relationships. We're going to talk about health, mental health, entrepreneurship, money mindset, like whatever. And I'm excited about it because I think we're all multifaceted creatures, at the end of the day. And it's like when you feel like you're put into a box, I've just never, I've never like, I'm so glad that you said that because that just made my heart smile. Yeah, like I was, technically if you're watching, a program, a TV show or a movie and you see the quote unquote popular person, they're like the cheerleader or something, right? And it's like
Exactly.
they're not in theater, they're not in Beta Club. Like so I love that. I love that you just pointed that out. That's amazing. Thank you.
Or if those movies that have that person that is the popular, the head cheerleader, and then they're in those other, like, I mean, I'm going to age myself, but you have like that High School Musical where
Right.
Zac Efron plays the basketball player and then
Oh,
he's in the theater group. Like, you just don't see that usually, but you know how people are obsessed with those characters. But
absolutely.
everyone's just going to start laughing that I named that as the movie of reference.
Oh yeah, no, I 100%.
You talked about Georgia, the school that you went to, and you said I got a degree in partying. Do you think that kind of maybe took the passion away from fashion merchandising in a way? Because a lot of times college is that kind of place where you're really, really trying to find yourself because there's
Yeah,
less rules, let's just say. There are rules, but you're not living at home, you're living
yeah,
on campus. So people are really exploring what's their limits and stuff. Do you
totally.
think if maybe that wasn't what the atmosphere was like, maybe that fashion merchandising would have became a little bit more popular for you to like really pursue it more?
It may have. I just, I think because it was never a true interest of mine, I think I literally was just like, oh, my sister's doing it, I'll do it. Like just kind of following the sister's footsteps. But it like every class that I took, I was like, this is just not it for me. Like I just did not like it. And I was raised in a very um like healthy environment. I mean, like holistic approaches. We were vegetarians for 10 years, like health, nutrition and like health and physical fitness. That was like a very much just a part of my life. So I didn't
Mhm.
necessarily know that I had like a passion for it as a career. I just like, this is my life. This is what I do, right? Like I didn't even think about it. And then, like I said, I mean, I graduated school in 2007 and almost 10 years later was when I got certified as a health coach. And I was like, okay, and my mom actually had gone through the coaching program a year and a half before I did. And she was like, Kyle, you're interested in this stuff. At least go through it for a personal reason. It's
Mhm.
very expansive and you'll learn a lot. And granted, the school takes you through setting up your own coaching business and whatnot. So that was entrepreneurship was just kind of thrown at me. And I didn't have to do it, but I was like, okay, well, I just went through a whole year program, got certified in this, might as well give it a whirl.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I don't know. I mean, if it was more of a serious school or maybe had I not met the certain people that were going out and partying all the time and it was more like hanging out with bookworms in a sense, quote unquote, like maybe it would have been a little bit more of a serious, maybe I would have found my purpose just hanging out with different circles, of people. Absolutely. I mean, I wish that I had had like a career coach or really leaned into my what are they called? Like your not your tutor, but like your advisor in school.
Yeah.
Like, had I leaned into my advisor, be like, I really don't know what I want to do. And maybe had they given me like a personality test or any of these like Myers-Briggs, test things like that. Like maybe it would have helped me figure out what I was actually interested in because they just didn't know.
Well, and I always love the path that you never know what's going to happen. Like you'll never like I'll say podcasting was never my future. And
Yeah.
we're both here later doing it and we have a passion for it, but it took us time to finally find it.
Yeah.
And coaching came years later down the line. When you were a coach or when you're as a coach, what was the greatest thing you learned about yourself from helping others? Did they figure out something in you that you're like, oh, I can connect with that individual. Oh, I can see similarities in my journey or what I'm going through with them.
Absolutely. Probably 100% of the time, that's what's happening is, I will start to give advice and I'm like, I'm hearing myself as if I'm like a third party. And I'm like, one, you're not doing this. Like you're giving this excellent advice, but you're not even doing it. Or wow, like that person just like said something that you've been doing, like a pattern of my own or behavior of my own. And I'm like, shit. Okay. Like, now I'm gonna coach them and guide them through something. And again, I'm like, they just like pulled out something, they just reflected something back to me that I have been struggling with. I'm like, okay, but now I have to give some expert advice. And I would, but it's so fascinating because I've talked to other, entrepreneurs and coaches, and they're always like, oh yeah, I can dish it. But like
Yep.
me myself, sometimes it's like I'm not in alignment. Like I'm actually not walking the walk. And I was like, that's so crazy. So that has probably been like one of the biggest things for me in that space is things being reflected back to me, or they're coming with yeah, I would say the reflecting back. It's like, wow, it's like the problem that you're facing right now is really right in front of your face. They're going through it too. And you're giving them thoughts and your opinions and suggestions and life advice and tools, but are you using them?
Hmm.
So I was like out of alignment really with what I was doing in a sense. And that was interesting. It's an interesting journey for sure.
As you were a coach prior to being on the show, you really didn't have it where people were just coming to you because, oh, you're a celebrity, you're a name now. What was the big thing that clients or individuals were really connecting with you and wanting to work with you? What was your kind of special area that was bringing these people and working with you?
Yeah. So the first year, um, I started a social media and I was just posting recipes and workouts and that kind of thing. That was a very surface level, minimal attraction type of thing. I worked with a handful of clients. Then the end of 2014, I actually gained like 30 pounds. And it's probably a year later, after trying, I hired a celebrity personal trainer that was just a friend of mine, local. He just happened to train celebrities in our local area, but that person, I was like Googling all the time, like, how do I like lose this weight? Like, what am I doing wrong? Like, what's wrong with me? It was a very embarrassing time because I'm like, okay, I'm trying to coach people and I've gained 30 pounds. Like, who am I to coach anybody right now? Obviously, there's a problem at hand. So it wasn't really forward facing with it. And then I started a like beach body program and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna like go online and like tell the people what I'm doing, whatever. And I had taken a picture of myself in like a sports bra and like little like booty shorts kind of thing and at the 30 pounds heavier. And I posted this picture and this long like caption of like, this is what I've been struggling with, this is what I'm going through. And it had such a powerful response. Kelly, like, you've always been super tiny and you're like trying to health coach us, which is great. We love you for it. But like now you actually get it. You
Yeah.
actually understand what we're going through. And so with that, I was able to help individuals just really understand why. And my story was like I started under eating, like severely. I can't say that I had like an quote unquote eating disorder, but I had disordered eating. I was probably eating maybe 800 calories a day, maybe. And I was working out like crazy. I taught spin classes. So for 45 minutes, I was on a bike, crushing it. And then I would leave the bike and go like strength train, heavier weights, because that's Google. You know, if you Google, how do you shred up really fast? It's lifting heavier weights. So I was like, I'm all about it, but I was eating so less. So I think what happened, my body, just the stress of everything, my cortisol was like, what are you doing? And it just fight or flight kind of mode. I went to starvation mode. And I'm like, I think it literally converted carrots to fat. Like anything that I was putting in my body, it was just, I mean, but granted, like my friends would be like, you're not. And I hate this. I don't like the word FAT. I don't like it. But like they would be like, you're not fat. You're just like, you're like thick. And I'm like, I don't know what's worse.
Yeah, that's not a good word either.
I don't know what's worse. They're like, because you're muscular, like you work out all the time and everything. So I was muscular, but he didn't love either of that, obviously. And, but yeah, but what happened, I started eating more food, working out less. Like, I mean, when I say like I would do spin and then I would go work out probably another 45 minutes. So I was probably spending like an hour and a half to 2 hours in the gym almost every single day. And then, like I said, only eating like 800 calories. So I started eating more like 1,200 calories a day or 1,300 calories a day. And I would only work out for 30 minutes. And it like night and day, like started losing the weight. And it was, I was that was how I was helping people. That's how I started helping people. I'm like, I didn't understand the science behind it, but like like it was working. So it was fine. But like obviously since then I understand the science behind it. Like you have to fuel your body. Like otherwise you are putting so much stress on your body and other things occurred. I mean, I had lost when I first started doing it and under eating, I had lost like 10 pounds, which means I was like 99 pounds. Which, yeah, my like face was very gaunt looking. I mean, everyone was like, "Are you eating? Are you throwing up? Like, are you bulimic? Like, what's going on?" I was like, "No, of course I'm eating." And it was interesting. Like, I had braces twice, so I always brush my teeth after a meal. And when I was at work, I get done eating and I go to the bathroom and brush my teeth. And my boss actually like he had me like come into his office one day and he was like, "What are you doing when you go to the bathroom?" And I was like, I'm brushing my teeth. I was like, I've done that. I've worked at that company for like 8 years. I was like, I'm brushing my teeth. And he's like, okay, well, I'm just like kind of concerned about you. Yeah. So it was raising emergency across all platforms. But my mom took me to like the doctor one day. She was like, I don't know what's going on with you. We need to like figure it out. So we got some like blood work done. Blood work, sitting up in the little bed. And I was like, I feel like really nauseous. Can I get some water? And the nurse goes, no, you're gonna get sick. Like we know that sign. Like if you no, like you'll throw up if we give you water. And I was like, well, I feel like I'm gonna throw up anyways. Like it doesn't matter. Like I just needed water. And they laid me back. They were like, well, go ahead and lay down. And honestly, that is the last thing I remember is like closing my eyes to lay backwards. And the next thing I knew, I woke up and like there's the doctors in the room, there's other nurses in the room. My mom's at the foot of the bed. They're like holding my arms. And the doctor was like, welcome back. She's like, and I smelled ammonia. I was like, what does that smell? And she was like, we just had to wake you up with ammonia. Had you not come to, we were about to rush you to the hospital. And my mom goes, I think you just had a seizure. I'm pretty sure. She was, and my sister had seizures when she was younger, so my mom would know.
Oh,
Apparently I was convulsing. I passed out. I don't know. I don't know, but my body definitely like stored that trauma. And I, to this day, have an issue like getting blood drawn. I have to like lay down, cross my legs, be very stimulated. But it's all rooted from that under eating. Like I put so much stress on my organs, my nervous system, everything that it freaked out. And it's been a journey getting that regulated. And I mean, I still have some hormonal issues from it. My vagus nerve, which runs from your brain down to your gut, is still compromised. Like I said, when I give blood, drawn for tests and things like that, I still have to be very stimulated. And, sometimes like I went to I had a, because I use a lot of holistic doctors. So they're always drawing blood of some sort. But I went to one facility one time and I told them, I was like, I have vasovagal. I need to like make sure that I'm laid down. And they're like, well, we don't have any beds. So you may have to go across the street to the hospital and like get your blood drawn there. And I guess I was just like, no, it's fine. I'll talk myself out of it. It's fine. And it was fine. The woman, I was sitting up and I was just like, you have to talk to me. Like you have to talk to me this whole time. And she was great. She was like, I know exactly what to do. You're fine. You're okay. I'm like, okay. But I like break out like immediate like hands get clammy and everything. But it was a very yeah. So anyone listening to this, if you have disordered eating, like understand it affects everything. Everything.
I think the great part of you sharing that is a lot of, I think with the times of social media, people are always putting out what they want people to hear. And I think more people want to hear the challenges because it's all about that connecting and someone sharing about the vulnerability and the challenges they've gone through. They're more likely going to continue to learn from that person, follow that person because that's authentic. And I think you sharing that is just showing the authenticity, even with your platform. I think it hits even more people to be comfortable in sharing that path that they've on because they might have had that
Yeah.
going through them and they are like not ready to share it, but you being that person to share it, they're like, I think I'm ready to share it. And they're getting out there, getting the help because I went through similar with the under eating. And I started working with a trainer about a few months ago. He's like, you're basically starving yourself. But to
Yeah.
me, it's like I was eating a lot, but for my size and everything, they're like, no, you were eating like 1,000 to 1,500 calories less than you should have been. And I'm like,
Wow.
it felt like I was eating a lot. And then when he got me on the numbers, and I'm like, this is a lot of food because my body
Mhm.
was so used to it. But
Yeah.
even being a diabetic, like we're things that we have to make sure that we're doing well and stuff. So
Yeah.
like your journey and getting to where those numbers should be, and I'm doing that same thing, and I feel better where I'm at. And you probably are
Yeah.
similar where you're feeling confident, you're feeling better, and you're like mental health is going there. It like
Yes.
creates a path towards the future.
It definitely does. It definitely does. And I'm a big like as far as like mental health goes, I've struggled with things. I've never been diagnosed, with depression or whatever, but I'm like, I know I've definitely I've had panic attacks. I've only one time, thank God, but I've had them. I've been anxious. I have depression. I don't know if it's hormonal, seasonal, whatever the case may be, but I definitely battle with those things. And I am very familiar with, the gut brain barrier, and eating nutrient dense foods really does help clear the mind and help you stay, more mentally focused. And it is helpful. Granted, if I eat a lot of gluten or something
Yep.
like dairy, like it affects how I feel and how I show up. So, it's all very connected. It is very connected.
A big part of your story is Love is Blind. And season one, you're going into a show not knowing what is going to come from it. And now you look at it and it's one of those popular shows that people follow on Netflix.
Mhm.
What was your thinking before getting the opportunity to do it? Did you have hesitancy or like, what am I getting myself into? Like, what did they tell you the show was supposed to be about? And did it match up with the experience you had?
Yes, it did. I mean, they said, it's a, like a blind dating experience. I don't remember exactly like if, I know that they said, there could be an engagement and a wedding and all the things. I know they said that, but I think when they were proposing the idea to me, I was like, I'm too picky. I'm never going to match with anyone. So like, I just like disregarded that. Right. Like, So I didn't even think about it. But when they proposed the idea to me, I was like, this is really awesome. And a couple of reasons. I mean, one, out of ego, I was like, oh, my girlfriends all think that I just go after these like model looking guys. And I want to prove to them that I can like make a real connection and by emotional and personality. So that was ego driven, but also like I was in I had left a corporate position probably 6 to 8 months prior to them giving me a call. And so I was like, I can go do a show for 7 weeks. Like I don't have to take PTO or anything. And I'm in a place of like self-love and personal development. And I was like, gosh, I feel like I'm like healed and I feel like I'm in a good place, like to actually meet someone. Like I really would love to have a companion. I mean, and I still do. I still would like to have a companion. But yeah, so it was very fascinating for me though when they pitched the show to me. I was like, this sounds pretty cool. I mean, granted, we didn't know it was gonna get like as big as it got, but it was definitely an intriguing idea for me.
Did you think you were going to get as far as you did on the show? Then
No.
what you didn't think you were going to get that far.
No, I mean, granted, when I was like, obviously, like in the pods and I'm falling for people, I was like, oh my God, but I mean, it was probably down to like the 1 or 2 days before the actual engagements that I was like, shit, I did connect with someone. Like, oh, what does this mean? What does this mean? I'm getting engaged soon? Like, this is crazy, crazy.
Especially from an outsider. I mean, we're only seeing such a small part of what you guys are talking. I mean, you could have been in there for hours talking to each other, and we're seeing like a glimpse of it. And it's kind of like you see the popularity of like the shows Married at First Sight, where it's like you're getting married without even knowing anything, where you guys are getting to know each other, but you just can't physically see each other.
Right.
Do you think that concept kind of works now with the age of social media and kind of the dating apps where you are kind of doing love is blind, but
Right.
you can technically see the person through a picture. But nowadays we have a show like Catfish that people are
Right.
not talking to the same person. So that show is like taking so many different areas and putting it together.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, yes, I think it was such a great concept. Like I said, I mean, the the dynamic of the pods for me, it felt almost like, like I said, before social media. I mean, I came in an age when this stuff didn't exist back in the day. And it's like you're on your like wired phone, your cord phone in your house and you're talking to someone. Granted, yeah, it's probably for someone from school, so you know what they look like and everything. But like when you can't see the person, we don't have the FaceTime accessibility, that kind of thing. So it's like that's almost how it felt like when we were in the pods, that we were just having like a phone call conversation. We're getting to know that person, and you had butterflies with some, butterflies not with some. It was just a really neat experience. It really was.
With a lot of reality shows, usually they're taped and they don't air until a later time, where you're a person that knows exactly what happened throughout the whole entire season. And with your journey, you got to that wedding day and then it did not go as happened. Were you nervous about your friends' families seeing exactly what went on without you being able to tell them? Or were you able to tell them how that experience was prior to it being released?
Yeah, yes and no. You know, so our wedding day was on a Wednesday.
Which is weird.
Which is weird. Right, exactly, which is super weird. Anyway, so of course, like we each had, I think, maybe 25 to 50 people that we could invite to the wedding. I told most of my people, I was like, it's not like, I don't want you to take off work to come to, like, it's not that important. So because I didn't want to be like, yeah, I'm getting married and then come and me not, and then be like, shit, I just took off a PTO day for this. Not that they would have gotten upset, but still, I was just keeping them their best interests at heart too. But anyway, so I did tell, which probably was against the rules, but whatever. I did tell people that that was not going to happen. And then afterwards, I pretty much kept it pretty quiet, you know. I mean, granted, the people who came to my wedding, um, were all my close friends, so that would have been who I would have told anyways. But regardless, I mean, I knew a girl, another friend of mine, the show comes out and she was like, I literally just saw you like 3 weeks ago. How did you not tell me about this? So it was interesting. It was definitely interesting to navigate. But I don't think Kenny, I don't think he told his side though. Maybe a couple people, but I don't think he told his side. So it was more of a shocker, which I mean, granted, that was kind of how you were supposed to do it. I mean, I guess I was against NDA on that, but whatever.
It's been so long ago. I don't think
It's
they're.
been so long. I don't think, but yeah, I mean, again, I just would have felt bad had they like, I mean, if it was like a Saturday, maybe I wouldn't have said anything to be like, okay, let's just like roll with it and
Yeah.
like go with the punches. But yeah, since the majority of my friends all have regular jobs, like I needed to tell them. So they didn't. Because I had a friend that lived in Charlotte, or I have a friend that lives in Charlotte, and she was like, so like, are you like really getting married, or do I need to like do I need to take PTO for this and come like actually come? And I'm like, no, please don't come. But I want you to know that I'm doing this, so giving you the opportunity. If you want to come, here it is.
What do you would you say was the biggest thing you learned about yourself through being on that show? And how has that played an effect with kind of learning about yourself, relationships past that show?
Yeah, great question. I would say, I mean, communication in general, my like listening skills have definitely gotten better. But overarching like self-abandonment has been my biggest thing. Because at the time when we were filming, everything was good. I mean, the Kenny and I, we had talked about, you know, like maybe not getting married. We were going to date after the show, like all this stuff. And um, so I thought that, okay, well, you know, if when we say no, like we're going to continue dating. Like we enjoyed each other's company. And right probably like a week or two before the wedding, there were some signs that like he like, you know, he was telling me he loved me the whole entire time. And then like he just didn't say I love you one day. And
Oh,
instead of me saying like, you didn't say I love you, you know, like I just bypassed. So I kept bypassing these little red flags. Um, and therefore, anyways, we obviously did not continue dating after the show, which was okay. In hindsight, it was okay. At the time, I was felt very heartbroken. But you know, the self-abandonment, I think that's it. It's like we're like bypassing, we're not looking at things. And even dating after the show, I found myself doing that same kind of thing, like people pleasing, not really focused on myself, not really looking at the aerial view of the situation and being like, okay, I like this, and this about this guy, but I don't like this and this and this. I was so focused on like what I do like and, you know, the intimacy part of things or whatever. And I was, you know, it was almost like I fell in lust with people versus falling in love with people. Um, and I was very disconnected, you know, it was a lot. These last handful of years have been a lot, you know, just like energetically, I have this newfound audience and I'm like, holy Christmas, like I don't know how to handle all of this. And, you know, even social media, yes, for the most part, I'm very authentic, I'm raw, I'm vulnerable, all the things. But there were some posts, like I could go through my social media right now and look at my feed and be like, that really wasn't me. Like that was maybe influenced by someone else, things like that. And so I was just abandoning myself. I didn't really have, even last year, I found myself just looking for external validation a lot. And I didn't even have like a real true self-care routine. I wasn't working out. I was drinking a lot. Like I just was really abandoning myself. And I think it's just like a innate, deep-rooted like program of mine to do that. When shit hits the fan, I just avoid versus like connecting and coming back home to myself. So that has been something in this last like 8 months that I've been really focused on working on myself. started a workout routine again back in November and just, okay, you know what? Like, if a guy wants to see me, they will reach out. If, and it's kind of where I've been. And I've been really focused. I mean, every single time I'm around my best friends, they're like, are you dating? Have you gone on any dates? I'm like, and I did back in March. I went on a couple of dates, but it wasn't, it wasn't the right fit. And since then, I haven't gone on any dates and I'm okay with it. Like I'm focused on relaunching the podcast, creating new content. I do have a 9 to 5 job and I'm an account executive and I really enjoy it. I meet really nice people every day and I'm just kind of focused on that. I just like don't have, I don't know. I don't put pressure on myself to be like, you need to find someone. You're almost 40. Like, so yeah.
The people that you bring into your close knit circle, do you try to have them really not be a part of your life because you were on this platform? Or you want them to really get to know who you are first? And if they find out at a later time, that's okay. Because a lot of times with people who have been on shows, they have people wanting to be close to them because of their platform. I
Right.
think it's harder for the individual because you want to find those friends that are your friends or the people that you're dating because you're like that. Because you kind of can take it back to what we talked about earlier, where people do it because they want to do certain things to be that popular person. And
Right.
so people are always going to be around them because they have that social status.
Hmm.
Do you see that kind of in your life now where you're keeping the same best friends because they were with you prior to that and they're still with you through the dark times that you had and
Absolutely.
everything?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like shout out to my best friends. Like they're amazing. They've gone through it way before Love is Blind and after, and they're still here and I love them to death. As far as new people coming along. I mean, I'm very it was funny because like one time my sister said something to me like, they're just like using you. And I'm like, yeah, but like I'm okay with it. Like, well, it was hey Kyle, can you come like, whether it was like coaches or different entrepreneurs or even like podcast, hosts are like, hey, like come be on my show, and I'm like, okay, like I could get to share my story.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, okay, that's fine. There's never, I guess the opportunity has never presented itself that it's been like cringy for me. Like I've never been in a situation where someone's like trying to like be my bestie and I'm like, okay, like what's that, kind of thing. And I'm very big in boundaries. I mean, yes, of course, there are people local to Atlanta that are like, oh my, they'll DM me and they're like, everything you talk about, I resonate. I bet we would be best friends. Like, would love to meet you, would love to hang out with you. And I'm like, I don't even have time to hang out with my best friends that I've known for 20 years. Like, I can't have, like, yes, of course, like, I do want new friends and people that are aligning to the, you know, time of life that I'm in and everything, of course, but I'm like, I have so much going on. Like, there's a girl I've known for like 15 years and not super close. We've never been super close, but we've hung out in different circles. And a year ago, or a year and a half ago, I reached out to her and I was like, you are such a champion, like such a true supporter of my like social media. Like she would, just DM me like, oh my God, I love this, or I love that you talked about this, blah, blah, blah. And she was so supportive. And I was like, what, we should hang out like in real life. And then literally like 5 months ago, I texted her and I was like, we never did that. We still have not seen each other. And she's like, I know. And then like it was like a week later, she like texted me. She was like in my like neck of the woods and I had something going on. I couldn't like go meet her. But I was like, it's hard for me to like even hang out sometimes with the people that I do know. So for me to like start, it can be very exhausting. So as much as I would love to befriend all the people because I love humans, I love connecting with people. I do have to be very just big in my boundaries around that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And I'm like, I'm sure there will be like an opportunity for us to connect sometime soon, just like not right now. And it's nothing, it's not because I don't want to hang out with them. I just don't have the time for it. Like I said, I work full time. I'm trying to maintain and foster my relationships that I already have and all that. And then when it comes to dating, it's funny because like some of the like I'm not a serial dater, So it's not like I'm going on dates every week. I'm more of a seasonal dater. And I want to say right after the show aired, a handful of months later, I mean, Atlanta, Georgia was one of the first cities and states to like open up to the public with COVID. So it was a handful of months later, and I went on a date with this guy, and the waitress that we were at a restaurant, she was like, "You're the girl from Love is Blind." And the guy was like, "But should I know what that is?" And I was like, "No, you
Yep,
don't."
you're good.
No, you don't. But he was like, "What are you like famous or something?" And I was like, "Well, I mean, maybe." So I told him or whatever, but I haven't gone on a lot of dates. But with the ones that I have gone on, they most of them have not known at all. Like,
I feel like that's a good thing.
yeah, I thought it was. I thought it was
Then
fine.
it's like you're not dating them because they're not because there'll be that like crazy fan asking all the questions where they're getting to know you, and then if it somehow pops up, they're
Yes.
kind of more shocked and they're like, "Oh, that's interesting." They're not going to be like, I mean, unless they don't like that, but it's not like they're coming out saying, "Oh, I knew you were on the show. That's the reason I want to go out with you."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I have definitely probably I've just like filtered out of that. I mean, people, I mean, of course there's guys that are like DM me on Instagram and everything, and I'm just like the way their approach, their whatever, I'm like, no.
Next.
Yeah.
With your podcast, has there been a story that has been like a huge moment or it's played a big impact with your listeners, but maybe you also?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I've had a lot of people on. But I would say, as far as my listeners go, one of my episodes that had like a majority of the views, a big viewership was something about like money mindset, honestly. That was like a really, really big one. And how this woman, I mean, she's known as the money queen, this woman, but she, gives no F's about things. I mean, she's very straightforward, very blunt, and like, this is the way it is, everything. It was a very good episode. So that did have a lot of listens. However, some of my most connecting, I actually had Annalyn McCord on my podcast. She's an actress. She was on like 90210, Nip Tuck. She's been on twice now. And the first episode, she was talking about the fact she had dissociative identity disorder. And I was so intrigued by this. I mean, just like her vulnerability in sharing about this. And, she got this disorder because of traumas in her childhood and like but she was dissociated from it. She didn't realize that her behaviors in her adolescence and her adult years were stemming from this trauma, and she was just sharing so vulnerably, and she was like, like I had such a high pain threshold, like it took a lot for me to be able to cry about things. Like I would go like a long time without crying. I was very like emotionless, she said, and I would have to take home scripts where there was crying involved, and I would read the script in order to get myself to cry. And
Oh,
I was like, wow, And so anyway, she like went through all these like therapies and everything, and some technique that she did reminded her of what happened, and she was like, whoa, like holy shit. Anyway, she started this whole healing journey. She's a huge like meditation and like inner child like activist now, as well as like human trafficking. Like she's a big sex trafficking activist. But with all that being said, she came to and she was like, now I can like cry at the drop of a pin. Like it's wild, like how it happened. Anyway, so she tells me that. And then fast forward to last year, um, I saw she had like posted something about this new film that she was in, and I just like responded to it, whatever. And she was like, "Oh my God, we should like," and she like invited herself back on my podcast. She was like, maybe we should talk about it on your podcast again. I was like, yeah, totally. Okay. And I was actually taking a break at the time, but I'm like, absolutely, we're gonna start this thing back up. And the film that she was in was about mass shootings.
oh.
It was deep. I still have not seen the film, but I obviously got the gist of everything. But I mean, she said she was like, I play the main character, the literally like the first scene of the film is me walking into a church and shooting up 20 people. And she's like, and then the film takes you through the like, back in time and like how she got to the point of wanting to go do that. And so it's actually a film on mental illness and mental health. And I'm a big advocate about that. It speaks near to my heart. And I was like, emotional on the podcast and everything. And I was like, oh my gosh, and just the way she talks about it. And she said, Kelly, it was so crazy. She goes, the day we filmed that scene of me going into the church, we all get home, and that was the day the Uvalde, Texas shooting happened.
Oh,
She was like, so of course we like all come back to set the next day, and we're all like distraught, and we're like, should we continue doing this? And she was like, honestly, it was like a unanimous decision. They were like, this is why we need to do this film. Like, put this message out to the masses. Like, people need to know, why do people get to where they're like, get to that point of like mass suicide, like whatever, And it was just a very profound conversation. I mean, it's literally like anytime anyone asks me that, I'm like, that conversation was very powerful for me.
just
Triggering, very powerful.
I 100% agree with those types of TV shows, movies. We see a lot of them coming up in the last few years where there's such a sensitive topic on what those characters are going through, but those sensitive topics are what actual people are going through. And I think it's so important because people are watching it and it's something happens in those shows that trigger something for them. Like, I think I see signs like that in a friend or a family member. And I think it starts the conversation that they might go talk to them about it and really prepare. And as much as it's so hard, like, especially the first scene of that movie where that's happening, there's people out there that are going through those struggles that results into something like that. And I think people sharing it helps so many people. And I think, I mean, you could look on anyone's Netflix, Hulu, all those. The popular shows are the ones with those kind of topics. I think
Absolutely.
what is the Netflix show? 13 Reasons Why, I think it's called, where it's all about a girl that passed or suicide. I think it's suicide. I might be wrong, but it goes through the journey of how did that moment happen, where each character, what part did they play in that ending? And you're
Wow.
kind of going backwards. And I think with that being in a high school where kids are going through those, that matches up with what you were talking about, where the reason why they're doing it is because things like that are being played out in the real world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It was so profound. And, even she said something about, it's like they do these like public suicides and because, and they essentially get what they're desiring the whole time. They're on every news channel and everything like that. And of course they're seen. They are finally seen. She's like, but unfortunately they're not here to see it.
Hmm.
And she goes, but their whole life or however long they've been struggling, that's what they're like, I just want to be heard. I just want to be seen. And then she's like, and they get it. It's just, but it's crazy. And she said a statistic like 50%. She was like, 50% of suicides are like talked about. Like, the person who's thinking about it, whatever, they'll say something. And people are like, she goes, but so 50% of people either take it seriously or they're like, that's ridiculous. Like they're never gonna do that.
Yeah.
Right. And she was like, so let's be the 51-49 and take it fucking seriously.
Yeah.
Like, you know, she's like, but 50%, like that's a very, very large number. you know, but yeah, that was probably my most powerful.
And I love those types of shows because I think people, even with my guests, it's like when I hear the authentic stories, I think it's more impactful and everyone has a story. Like your guests, people know her from being on TV and shows, but they don't know what's behind the scenes. They don't know who that person is. They see her as that character, and I love listening to those stories because you learn something. Every guest that I interview, I learn something that I can take from it. When you're not working, what does Kelly like to do for fun that maybe people don't know that you do?
Yeah, I mean, probably for the most part, it's probably seeing like friends and family and just like chilling. Like, I would love to go sit in a park, like ground myself, touch my feet to the actual grass. Um, but I do enjoy, I love dancing. I love dancing. Like, I will dance wherever. I love going to like paint classes. I don't do it very often, but it does make me feel good. I enjoy it. It's very therapeutic for me. I am very easily entertained. I mean, you could literally like pretty much put me anywhere and I'm gonna be entertained doing it. If I was to take like a cooking class, I would probably enjoy that. Like, I haven't done it, but I would like to. I love singing. I'm not great at it. I like it. But that's something kind of like on my bucket list, is to get like a voice coach just to like try and sing a song at a good note, at a good pitch. I love basketball. I love sports. I really do enjoy sports. I like watching football. I mean, I went to UGA. Obviously, we're a really good football school. But I actually I played recreational basketball when I was like, I think between the ages of like 9 and 14. And I'm not great at dribbling the ball, but I can shoot the ball. Like, I can make it. I'm 5'2". Like, people are always like, wait, you actually enjoy football, like basketball? And I'm like, yeah, I love it. I don't know. I mean, I'm a big like personal development junkie. I'm 95% of the time I will be reading a personal development book over a just fun leisure book. Granted, I've read a couple of those and they're great. They're fine. But something, I just like expanding my mindset and learning something about myself. So I think the greatest journey in life is learning about yourself.
Yes.
It really is.
The final question I'll ask you, for someone that's listening to this interview based on your journey and experience, what tips or advice would you give them to overcome obstacles, accomplish their goals, and rise to the challenge?
Stay true to themselves. Don't self-abandon. Honestly, I like, and that's cliche to say, be yourself, all the things, and it's harder than it sounds. Because I've been living it the last handful of years. I've definitely been in a self-abandonment mode for a long time. Even before Love is Blind came out, I was definitely, falling into situations that I was very disconnected from self, and it doesn't serve you in the long run. Like, you're gonna constantly be chasing something if you are constantly avoiding yourself and abandoning yourself. So create a self-care routine, whether that's, waking up a little bit earlier in the morning to just move your body, go for walks outside, meditate, journal, read personal development books. It's all very helpful tools, breath work, things like that. Find something that you enjoy doing, like a hobby, and go do that. That is something, I mean, I'm saying right now I need to do more of that myself, outside of the personal development space, but like pick up something that I've maybe learn how to play the piano or something. I don't know, like go do something to challenge yourself that is going to that is going to make you feel very present in the moment. Because when you're present in the moment, you're not thinking about the past, you're not thinking about the future, you're so in the moment, and there's no room to abandon yourself. You're in it. So the more that you just like focus on like quote unquote dating yourself, the happier you're going to be.
Kelly, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about your rise to the challenge. You're inspiring so many people, and we are excited to see what the future looks like for you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited too. I don't know what the future looks like, but I'm excited about it too.
Tune in next time to hear my next guest talk about their rise to the challenge. Remember to follow and subscribe on all major audio platforms. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get a full-length episode in video format. What path do you take to accomplish your goals? You decide.